Alright, we're back here. We're going to go ahead and take a look at some picture editing. And this one, you'll really see what I mean when I talk about picking out names to give to these guys if you're going to edit them. Like I said, you'll see. First thing I wanted to point out, I'm sure you noticed, but when you move through your dynasty, if you move through a couple seasons, you'll notice that for whatever reason, the computer just refuses to re-sign free agents, and it's all mainly relief pitchers for the teams. Obviously there's some position players, but for whatever reason they really dislike signing relief players or relief pitchers, and they'll go ahead and use the scrub players I have in there, guys with 0 or 1 stamina, instead of signing these guys that are here in the free agent list that can help at the minor league level. Obviously the computer has some idea about budget. They'd rather sign 10 guys that stink to be an A-ball than a guy like this that could probably be a AA or AAA. But that's another video for another time. So, pitchers. I have 11 here. So I'm going to go ahead and do, or 11 that I'm going to show you. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and do 3 5-star guys, 3 4-star guys, 3 3-star guys, and a couple 2-star guys. Never done 2-star pitchers, so just wanted to see how they would turn out in simulations for a few seasons. You know, that versus the 3 and the 4 and the 5-star guys. So, show you one example of each. There's variation slightly. We'll talk about some of that when I show you. So, the first guy I'm going to go ahead and do is Marte. He's actually a relief pitcher that Colorado drafted. Now, let's go ahead and find him real quick. There he is. Pretty standard reliever here. Dave Marte. Stamina looks good for a reliever. 2-pitch pitcher. Definitely a reliever type. I'll talk about what I mean with some of these other examples that I'll show you here, but go ahead and open him up. He was drafted number 4 overall. So I'm going to go ahead and make him a 5-star relief pitcher. As you can see here, 1-star, a guy drafted number 4 overall is a 1-star guy, and every pitcher that was drafted in the first round, and I'd imagine beyond, was a 1-star guy. So pitchers, again, go ahead and making sure the face matches up with the name and everything of that nature. Hitting, really don't mess with that, because actually what I do in my dynasty is I put DH for both. So to me, when you're selecting your options at the beginning of the dynasty, so pitchers never hit. I like to get as many batters in there, kind of get more offense into the game. But if I were editing, I'd probably drop his hitting down a little bit. Speed, like I said, we want to get guys up to 50 at a minimum. Pitchers generally don't steal, so what I do with the regular rosters is I bump that down. Everything else here is fine. You can probably bump up his fielding a little bit. Hot and cold zones if you wanted to give him some cold zones, since pitchers really can't hit. So here's the thing that I do. Like I said, stamina's fine for a rookie. You might even drop him down a couple. But the pickoff move, I see this often, a 0 or a 10. And this is something that usually doesn't progress. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and give him at least a little something here on the pickoff. Control, I don't mess with that at all. If a guy's a lefty, give him a little bit better pickoff. But velocity is something you want to look at. I'll see guys that are drafted in the first round that are throwing 85-mile-an-hour fastballs. So you at least want to get them to 90. Like I said, control, I don't even mess with that. Now you'll see here, changeup, 0 for movement. Speed, it's fine. You can probably bump them up a few ticks. I like to make it realistic based on kind of the speeds So again, like I said, I don't mess with control. But what I'll do is movement. I think that is something that's just as vital, maybe if not more. So what I'll do for all the 5-star guys is I'll bump them up 5 levels on this. And here's what I mean: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A guy could be at 10 for movement, bump him up 5. 20, bump him up 5. If he's 30, 40 already, I won't bump him usually any higher than 60, 65. And again, the reason for that is movement just doesn't develop in progression. And we'll see a little bit of that, like I said, with all these other guys when we go forward. Control, that's something that changes. And we'll see that. But simple here. 2 pitches, 5-star guy, he's done. So we're going to go ahead and do a couple more 5-star guys off camera. I'm going to go ahead and do Buxo, who was drafted number 5 by the A's, and a Quantrill, a guy named Quantrill, who was drafted number 8 by Atlanta. How many Quantrills are running around, right? So let me do those, and we'll be back, and we'll do a 4-star guy. Alright guys, we're back, and we're going to look at a 4-star edit here, a pitcher. One thing I wanted to emphasize, what I do, is when you have the draft take place and spring training happens after everything else, do the edits then. Don't do whatever revisions you're going to do, especially in terms of the stars and career potential and making your bumps. Make sure those happen in spring training, because then you have the progression right afterwards. So if you have a guy that, under whatever method you use, say for instance this guy, he's a 1-star guy here, but we're going to go ahead and bump him to a 4-star guy. If I don't bump him and we do the progression, he's going to obviously progress as a 1-star guy, which does no good. So we want to get that season of progression, or that year of progression in as a 4-star pitcher. Now, what I see a lot of times too is guys that are drafted, they throw right, bat left. It's pitchers, really. That's pretty rare. So, that is a minor thing, probably doesn't even matter. His contact here, you can mess with that. Bring those more in line into the teens or 20s, but like I said, the way I play, pitchers play no role, they don't hit. The only thing here I look at is durability and speed as well. Try to give him a minimum of 50. Get his base running decent. It's like his fielding's okay, except for that one I fixed. Batting stances, you can correct those if you want. I usually will put guys to upright. But what I do here with pitchers is I want to go ahead and I want to set them like I would a guy that was just drafted, like a rookie. Some guy in rookie ball or A ball that I would have in my roster. So a lot of times I'll see starting pitchers, they've already got stamina in the 70s, and that's going to make them kind of appear higher in the ratings, like their overall rating. When their stuff may not be that good, they have a lot of stamina, which kind of puts them at a level where perhaps they shouldn't belong. They may be in AAA when they should be in AA. They may make it to the majors when their stuff is only AAA quality. So what I like to do if a guy is a rookie, 5-star guy, I like to have their stamina maybe in the mid-50s, a little bit higher also. 4-star guy, a couple ticks lower. Like I said, pick off, usually jump them up like 3 or 4 levels. Don't mess with the control, velocity looks fine. And again, like I said, I give more of a kind of a boost to a 5-star guy than a 4-star guy. And this guy was drafted 10th overall. If I was doing it properly, he'd be a 5-star guy. But as I said, for terms of this, for the sake of this simulation, we'll go ahead and make him a 4-star guy so we can see how he progresses versus some of the 5-star guys. Now, what I do here is when I have the control Obviously, we didn't see much of an example because the guy was just a 2-pitch pitcher. But for every pitch, I'll give him a movement of 5 bumps up. That's for a 5-star guy. For a 4-star guy, it's 4. Right? Pretty simple, right? He can make his primary secondary pitch a 5. I've experimented with that. We'll go ahead and do that. 2-seamer, probably should be a little faster if he's throwing 93 with his fastball. And that's another way I base my velocity off of. Do 4 levels up here. If we know, looking at a lot of these fan graphs, if you know a guy's throwing his fastball at 93, he's not going to be throwing a 2-seamer at 82 in real life. Same with a sinker. If he's throwing the fastball at 93, the sinker is going to be 93, 92. I mean, I've seen so many fan graphs. Curveball, this is good. You can bump it up or down a little bit. So that's it. That's a 5-star guy there. I mean, that's a 4-star guy, excuse me. So I'm going to do a couple more off camera, and then, as I said, we'll get 3 3-star guys, and I'll show you an example of one, and then a couple 2-star guys, and I'll show you an example of one. We're going to take a look at editing a 3-star guy now. Now here is where I wanted to do this guy specifically. Well, of course, his last name's Jeter, so that needs to be changed. That can only belong to one man that we know. But that being said, and that was the reason why I talked about changes. A guy named Guantrell. All these guys that are getting drafted, they have these common names of retired pitchers. Had a Radinsky being drafted, a Valone, a Maddox. Obviously, we can associate players with those names, but what I wanted to look at here was you have a guy who's a starting pitcher. He's got 4 pitches, but his stamina is 38, which is reliever level to me. So the choice I have here, and again, we're doing 3 stars for him. Choice we have here is, do we leave him as a starter or make him a reliever? And a lot of times what I'll do is I'll look at the team overall and see where they're at and see what their needs are in terms of making that decision. Let's say, for sake of argument, I looked and I saw the Cardinals had a lot of young 4-star, 5-star pitching. Go ahead and make him a reliever. Bump him up a couple here. Fastball needs to be 90. For here, I would give him 4 for movement, and maybe with his other secondary offerings, 3. You could always go 4 too, because as a 3-star guy, he's really not going to develop as fast as a 4-star guy. So we'll stick with 4 here. Bump that splitter up a little, change up, bump it up a little bit. So, like I said, the choice is, he was a starter, a 38 stamina. Do we leave him as a starter and maybe bump his stamina up into the low 50s like we do with the others? Or do we kind of go with what we see here, and based on team need or whatever kind of thing you think, just change him to a reliever? And there's other guys you'll see in the draft. They're starting pitchers that have stamina like his, but then you'll see relievers with 70 stamina plus, and I'll show you an example of one of those real quick. He's a guy I'm also going to turn into a 3-star guy. But alright, finished up with Jeter. I just kind of skipped the batting stuff for the sake of the simulation. We don't need to go into that, but there's a guy here, again, a name guy here. It's Houston. So he's a reliever for Houston. I'll just show him to you here real quick. Beatty DeRocher, right? So, a 3-star pitcher. Now, in his case, what I saw when I did the simulations with the guys that were 1-star is, and I've noticed this before, is eventually a reliever, when his stamina gets to a certain point, it'll convert to a starting pitcher. And his is pretty close. I believe what I saw was he was at 75 stamina wise, and it flipped him to a starting pitcher. So the game will actually do that. Again, he's a guy that we're going to go 3 stars on. But again, the option's there. Usually if he's a reliever and his stamina's that high, I just go ahead and flip him to a starter and kind of normalize the stamina, bring it down, like I said, to where a rookie level should be. So it gives it time for his pitches to develop control wise. You see, look at here, an 85 fastball. You see the slider here, 83, it's pretty good. Curveball, 75, not too bad. So that's just one thing I wanted to show you there. And for some reason, though, I noticed also every pitcher that gets drafted seems to wear a wristband, seems to wear a shin guard too. So, all right, there's one more 3-star I'm going to do off camera, and then come back and do a 2-star for you guys. Same kind of principle. Just take a look at a couple 2-star guys here and then wrap this video up for you guys. 2 guys I'll be looking at are Radinsky, that was drafted by Cleveland, and a guy named Kit Williams, who was drafted by the Yankees. And again, I don't do 2-star pitchers or hitters or position players for that matter, but for sake of simulation, I wanted to do a couple, because I've never done any, and I wanted to see how they progress out over a couple seasons. But at least if we give them a bump in their star rating, we can go ahead and see if they last in Dynasty, if they stick around for a few years at least. So, starter, his stamina was right about right. I'd drop it down a couple. Pick off at 0, of course, so go ahead and give him 3 or 4. Fastball velocity, really down. We got to get him up to 90 at a minimum. 2-seam, no movement, not surprising. 79 mile an hour, 2-seamer. Okay. Bump him up a little bit, that seems fair. Sinker, no movement, the usual. Here, movement, 3 or 4, whatever you want to do, right? Bump him up to 30 or 40. Even at 30, it's something better than nothing, which would probably help him stick around at the lower levels of the minors for a bit. Velocity, maybe add a couple ticks there. So that's it real quick. I just wanted to show you that. I won't get into the batting and everything. As you see, he's got that wristband there while he's pitching. Let me go ahead and show you Williams real quick. I actually already did him off camera, but I'll go ahead and put him out there for you. He was a guy who had a higher stamina. Stamina was up in the 60s, but he was a 2-pitch pitcher. So just went ahead and dropped him down to a reliever. His pickoff actually was about 40. His pickoff was 40 when I did it, so I just bumped him up a few more as a lefty. Velocity, curveball. It's good here. You could probably give him a couple more if you wanted to. Again, it's 2-star guys. Like I said, what I would do, it's just me, go 3 or 4 levels up on the movement, 30 or 40 for lower level guys. That's just me. All right, so that said, long video, you guys have seen a lot. 5-star guys, 4, 3, and 2, just some examples. As I always say, you kind of take these things that different people do and you kind of hone it and make it your own. Develop your own style. Like you'll see for some of the comments on my videos, some guys have these different things they do with pitchers and with hitters. But hey, this is an example. If you're interested in editing the draft, pitcher-wise and position players, get around into it. 3 rounds probably is a good minimum if you're going to play several seasons in Dynasty. If you're only doing a season or two, you probably don't even need to get into this. But if you're going 4 or 5 seasons into it, I would probably get about 3 rounds into it at least. I always do 5 myself, like I had said. But hey, that's this video. So what we're going to do is with the hitters and these pitchers, we're going to go ahead and progress 3 seasons. And then I want to show you guys the difference between if we left them at their original rating that they were when they were drafted, how they progressed versus going ahead and doing some edits and bumping up their star rating. Obviously, we know that the guys that have higher star rating are going to progress faster, develop faster, stay in the game longer, but I want to see how long or how drastic the difference is. And again, it's only a 3-season sample or 3 progressions, so you may not see that much difference. But even though I simulate a lot for you guys to make sure the rosters are looking good before I ship them out, I still wanted to see this and just get some numbers and put them out there for you guys, just so you could kind of get an idea and say, hey, this works. Maybe I should look at editing the draft and this and that. So again, thanks a lot for watching this video. Take care, guys.